Hello, we're here with John Dorr and Chris Rallis, two old timers in the Wayback Machine who were working for an organization, and a young guy named John Farley joined the team. And they're here to tell us about the experience of working with John and what a great guy he is.
Immediately apparent to me, and number one, he was smart, and number two, he worked hard, and number three, he had integrity. And I think those are three traits that have followed him all the way through his entire career, which is a long and distinguished career. And I am delighted that he's joining us now in the group of retirees who are living the good life. It's well-deserved and well-earned on his part. But of the 45 years that I've known John, I worked with him directly for about 20 of those years. And, you know, it was a time when baby boomers were coming into the labor market. And so there were a whole lot more people looking for work as opposed to job opportunities available. So quite a reversal over the kind of labor market we got today. And so people like me and Chris and John Farley, we landed at an organization called the Penobscot County Manpower Administration, which was at that time the newly established CETA prime sponsor to, in effect, implement the CETA programs. And the primary emphasis then was really to bring people who were unemployed and couldn't find jobs on board in public service employment opportunities. And a lot of that entailed creating job opportunities, creating projects. And I recall John Farley, as he came on board, having a very instrumental role in developing out employment opportunities and developing projects. And that's what I first saw John in action, as somebody who really went out and developed these projects quickly, developed employment opportunities for people, and in effect, through his work, you know, had a really big impact on helping to bring a lot of people, many of them with college degrees, on board to find subsidized employment through the CETA program. That was really the first phase. And that was a period of time, 2 or 3 years, where the organization that we all worked for took off, and John was an integral part of that. The organization ultimately grew into the Penobscot Consortium Training and Employment Administration, where it continued to expand its reach and went beyond Penobscot County, included Piscataquis and Hancock, and also extended its reach to include running seasonal migrant farm worker programs for the state, which Chris, of course, was responsible for. And so the organization, you know, in effect, established itself in the region as a real player in the labor market, focused on putting people back to work. The organization at the time really developed a reputation as doing good work. And a lot of that was due to the people that were there. As looking at it from the outside, it was an interesting and really powerful collection of young people who again, were smart, had real skills, and made the organization what it was. In early 1980, the organization again expanded its reach and transformed into something called Training and Development Corporation to continue to do additional work. And all along the way, I think John Farley's career continued to you know, have real influence and made a real contribution to growing this enterprise. And throughout it, we also followed the kind of history, the sort of economic history of Maine, and particularly the Eastern Maine region, where in the early 80s, we saw basically the shoe industry, the textile industry coming apart with major plant closing, major layoffs. And again, as these things occurred, John Farley was usually on point in terms of helping to organize how we set up programs and pathways for entry and participation for people who were laid off. And he always, I think, carried himself in an extraordinary professional manner, was focused on making sure people were getting treated right, people being served well, and had his eye on the ball in terms of, are we getting the right outcomes? Are we transitioning these people to jobs? I had occasion to work with John very closely when in 1987, he and I went up to the Millinocket region and had the unfortunate assignment of telling 25 union presidents up there that we were here to provide job training opportunities for, at that time, 4,400 workers who were working both in the Millinocket and East Millinocket mill, who had been informed for the first time that the mill was laying off people and things had taken a turn for the worse in terms of the paper industry. That's a process that really lasted about 10 years. So I would say, John was there for the duration of helping literally thousands of people transition out from an industry that was not only declining, but as you can now see, industry that went from, at one point that had about 40, 50,000 people working in it, where today we've got about 9,000 people working in that industry. And John was always on the front line in these projects and the person who ensured that things went well. Organizations develop reputations, and those reputations come about from what good people do in terms of the work they provide, the services they provide, and the conscience in which they enter their assignment. And John was always, I think, very deeply concerned about making sure that these workers who were suffering this kind of economic indignity were being treated well and being treated right, and insisting that the organization do its best possible effort to ensure that happened. So, I mean, those were some of my early experiences with John. And then, of course, as TDC grew and extended its reach, and at one point went down to Richmond, Virginia, and ran job training programs down there. Again, John was instrumental because of his detailed knowledge and focus on being able to set up delivery systems and to be able to impart to people who are being hired how these delivery systems should be staffed, how they should be run, the kind of systems that they should have, and in effect kept bringing forward what was the brand of the organization, which had developed a pretty good reputation. But reputations develop, as I said, because of what people do. And I would say John was a large part of helping the organization develop its national reputation by delivering quality programs and getting results.
Yeah, thanks, John. And 45 years later, he's just as consistent as he was back then. And I think his level of integrity and delivering services to people has really maintained a high level. So he's had a long, good career. Chris, what's your early impressions when you first met John, when he joined the organization?
Well, when I first met John, he really came across as a young, smart guy. He's a hard worker. He was putting in long hours along with those of us who were already there, who considered ourselves veterans at that point. But John and I, we were colleagues for about a 10-year period. And what I remember most about John is when the not only the paper industry, but the shoe industry as well really went belly up, to the extent to which he took his group and the people who were working for him, which included former shoe workers and some of the folks from Millinocket, and built a team who really provided creative services to those individuals they were serving. And he was really tireless in terms of how he went about things, very conscientious about results and outcomes, and very conscientious about the fact that people should be respected, and there should be empathy, understanding about the circumstances that these folks were undergoing. Many of these people, especially when you think of the paper mill, those are the family traditions. People went to work in the mills, and grandfather, father, and sons were in the mills. And the thought of shutting those down, people losing their work, was really traumatic for the folks. But John and his team did an extraordinary job of bringing folks around and doing the best that they could for them. Some they did very well, and it was the same with the shoe industry in parts of Maine. People went on to other careers as a result of John and his team bringing them into training and helping them place with jobs. They did a great job with that.
Yes. John Doerr, any final comments on?
Yeah, I think one of the most sort of fun experience I had with John is when he and I had an opportunity to work pretty closely on developing the Career Advancement Center, which in many respects was the forerunner of the one-stop career center model, where he and I had the occasion to basically sit side by side alongside the people who were delivering services to really try to figure out what are the kind of gaps in service delivery and how would we, through the development and the formulation of a career advancement center design, build a better service model and platform. And that was an exciting time of being able to work together, working hard. And, you know, I mean, I think the other characteristic about John Farley is he took his work seriously. He was a modest guy. He was, as I said, hardworking and real smart. And, you know, we always had fun doing the kind of work. So it was, you know, a really a wonderful experience to get to, you know, share the opportunities with him to work together in the cause of, you know, helping to basically transform the economic, you know, development of the region as people moved from one industry to the next, moved from one occupation to the next, as you know, part of what was going on in the U.S. economy. And so, having had a hand in developing that, I think for that he should get a lot of credit from folks who now are, I think, enjoying some of the fruits of what you guys are doing with, you know, an economy that's taking off and thriving.
Yeah. Well, this is wonderful to see both of you guys. I worked with you guys 10 years with TDC, and John and I reminisce a lot. We get reminded of good things and bad things, but two good things we always come up is Chris and John, both you guys, impact you made and how we enjoyed being with you and the kind of work you did. And I think in many ways, John learned how to do his business by watching you two. And I think having you do this today is really wonderful. So I want to thank both of you.
Yeah, well, he's well-deserved send-off for a guy who's earned it.
I agree. John's one of the best.
And Chris, you said that when he started, he was a smart young guy. So now he's a smart old guy.
Yes, he is.
All right. Well, thank you both. I'm going to stop right here. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right, Lee.